Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new tier list video. And today, obviously, we're going to be doing a SMITE 2 tier list. I mentioned that I was going to be updating my previous one come OB, I guess 15 or 16, whichever one we're on right now. Wanted to wait for a couple more characters to come out. So for the future, I'll be doing the same thing. We'll wait for 2, 3, 4 patches and then give a tier list update because usually per patch, not too much changes. I want to also note really quick that a lot of tier lists you'll see will have a separate like thing for the god with the aspect and without. I think that's just a little bit confusing and honestly unhelpful. Usually, you will build a character with aspect or without it, and I think ranking like Sobek with aspect versus Sobek without aspect is just obsolete. You just play the character one way or another. Usually one is just markedly worse. So I'll try to like clarify if there is like some difference, but again, I'm gonna, put these characters in their highest case, and I'll specify if that's, with aspect or not. So our tiers are S tier, A plus tier, A tier, B tier, C tier. I think a lot of gods actually fit this A plus tier, so normally you might see, S, A, B, C, D, but I don't really think there's a lot of D tier gods, and there definitely are a lot of A plus gods. So yeah, let's just like get started. So Achilles, right away A plus. So something you're gonna notice that's a little bit different with this patch when it comes to solo lane, especially, is really side lanes as a whole. The lanes have condensed a little bit. There's a little bit less like PvE farming to do because those side camps got nerfed. They're on longer cooldowns. There's less XP given, and there's just straight up less to do. And that really promotes more of like a brawling fight over the chest camp in the middle of the lanes and the totem in solo, and obviously the other mid camp in duo lane. So you'll find that these brawling picks, especially in solo, get a lot better, and the mage solos and the kind of backline solos typically got a lot worse. That's a pretty common trend. Achilles is like a spearhead of the traditional frontline solo. He's not the best, but he's definitely a very strong pick and definitely was a winner in this patch. So I'm going to put him in A+. Agni will put in A+ tier. I'm going to try to keep this in order, by the way. So like I'm putting Agni above Achilles. I might be a little bit, wrong with that, but I'll do my best with it. Agni is extremely strong right now, and Achilles is a god you'll probably see float down later in this list. But Agni is so powerful in that he's a double flex to mid and to ADC. His pressure is incredibly strong in ADC with aspects, and mid without aspect it's not the best, but the utility he brings is always very good. I think the only thing that, Agni doesn't have is a super strong early game in mid, and his damage can be kind of spotty for a very long time. But the flexibility of this character is super strong, and I mean, overall, he's kind of one of the best gods in the game outside of the ban phase, so consistently picking this god, especially in ADC, is a really good look to do. Aladdin, we're going to keep in S tier. This god's gotten a ton of nerfs, but unfortunately, like, it just kind of hasn't mattered. I really thought these last swing of nerfs would affect Aladdin enough to, bring him out of that kind of permanently banned phase. Hasn't really worked, hasn't really mattered. I mean, the big thing I think you're seeing that's an issue with Aladdin is you can't really beads the lamp consistently. If you throw your beads at like what should be an appropriate time, you still get pulled. Apparently that's never getting fixed, so that like, spread of just like unplayable counterness is pretty rough, paired with the fact that his damage is still extremely high. Aladdin kind of runs into this issue where if int items are really strong, he's overpowered. Strength items are really strong, he's overpowered. And there's always going to be one set of those that are really strong. And yeah, as a result, I mean, he just builds a full strength build right now and is still, one of the best gods. The Wealth Wish is way too overtuned. And yeah, I mean, this quote unquote late game character doesn't feel like a late game character at all. He feels like an all game character. So unfortunately, still a ban, and Aladdin remains an S. Amma is weird. I think I'll probably put her in the B tier. I know she got some items that probably should help her. I think what I've noticed is that the items that have came out are better suited for other gods for the most part. So like Vital Amp is better on Bologna than it is on Amma. It's better on Kurnanos aspect than it is on Amma. You have items like Regrowth, much better on gods like Bacchus than it is on Amma. And Death's Toll, which initially was like better because the anti-heal changes, got nerfed. So She doesn't really have a great place. I still think she's better jungle than solo. Solo, I really don't think she's a great character, and overall, she's kind of just whatever. You can play her, she's fine. I don't think she's like unplayable anymore, but for the most part, there's just much better alternatives. On her, we're gonna put in the A tier. So I think with on her, he's kind of fallen off a little bit. Not having a stim in his kit, aside from, obviously going aspect, which is an option, but losing the pen kind of sucks, is I think a little bit bad right now for the most part. So like when you look at a character like Agni Aspect who doesn't have an attack speed stim in his kit, he has the ability to, provide so much CC, so he kind of offsets the fact that his DPS might be a little bit lower in objectives. But when it comes to on her, he's a safe character. I don't think he gets to use his pressure as much as you'd like to because of how support dominated pressure picks generally are. He doesn't feel, in my opinion, like as safe as you would expect, or maybe it's just his damage output's a little bit lower than it should be. I think a lot of this just comes in the fact that, another jump character got added, Hou who tends to just be better in every way, especially with aspect, and on her's ultimate is still very, very bad. Anubis is a weird one, so I really haven't seen this guy a lot, and I think that's kind of telling. I'm gonna probably just put him in B tier. I don't think the lifesteal changes really help him all too much because he's still very, Bloodbound book centric, which has gotten itemized pretty easily with shield reductions and whatnot. Again, Anubis solo like isn't really a thing. Anubis mid is kind of a thing, but I just don't think it's all too great. Ancel's quite good right now, which is great into him. And yeah, I mean, overall, it just doesn't really have a good place in the meta right now. I don't think Anubis is very good. Aphrodite's a bit of a weird one. I'm going to put her in A plus tier, though. I think she is very strong. Obviously, this wasn't really a character that actually got too much out of healing. I think it's a really big misnomer that Aphrodite was like a healer, really in Smite for the latter, couple of years. She's always kind of been a tank support that shares prots and gives an immunity, and that's what's made her good. The healing's always been very, inconsequential, and I think remains that way. So support Afro is still very strong, great counter pick, keeps someone unkillable. That's a big deal. And then solo slash mid Afro with a more damage build is pretty good. The scaling is really strong. You have a lot of free engage. Having the double third ability with your ultimate means you have a lot of one shot, potential, and overall just like a really solid pick. I think with Apollo, he's a bit weird. I'll probably put him in A tier as well above on her. This guy's not played all too much. His aspect got nerfed a lot, so it's definitely regular Apollo and ADC you should play. And I mean, the pressure is good. Ultimate is sometimes useful, sometimes a bit useless. I think he's just like a very average hunter. He's definitely fine, but slightly better picks definitely out there at the very least. Ares is going straight into S tier. This guy has so much value right now. And having, an aura, which auras are rare in this game with his 2, having HP 5 in his 2, having a cripple. Obviously, you're forcing people to go different relics, ideally beads. And if people are going beads, they're not getting shells for cages from gods like Odin, which are really prominent. They're not getting sunders, which they need for secure. So Ares is kind of just like a relic force threat, and his pressure is really good in duo. He's also a flex to solo. This god is incredibly strong and definitely an S tier pick right now. And yeah, I would recommend, if you haven't really played too much Ares, to absolutely kind of put him in the pool. Artemis is another A tier god. I think what you're going to see with hunters is they're generally speaking pretty mid, save for a few picks. So yeah, Artemis is kind of right in line with that. She's fine. Again, A is kind of average, so I guess mid, that is the correct term, but people usually think of it as like negative. Yeah, she's very average. I think she's just where Apollo is on her, is a little bit better than them too. Not the safest god, but high damage output, so that's always, desired, and she's fine. I mean, you should play her, but I think you're going to see that Agni plus like 2 more hunters are kind of just better than everything else, and everything else is kind of looped together a tier or 2 lower. Athena is a weird one for me. I think I'm going to put her in A tier as well. I think the Athena solo train has kind of fallen off a cliff, but it's still okay, or at least it should be. You just kind of go bluestone and farm and then perma rotate. I think there's just better Guardian picks now with gods like Bacchus and Cab getting stronger. And yeah, she's just in a bit of a weird spot. Her support is okay. She's an engaged character, which is always useful. But I really wouldn't take her too far above A tier. I don't think there's really a huge reason to play her. She's kind of in the same issue as these other hunters where, no, she's not a hunter, but same issue as these other gods where there's just like much better alternatives that don't tend to have the downsides she has. So she's solid, but just kind of better choices. And that's really why I have this A plus tier. I think a lot of gods fit it. God that doesn't fit it though is a Wheelix. She got nerfed probably like 10 times, dude. And they've definitely reached her at this point. She doesn't have the best 1v1 in the jungle anymore with so many, strength scaling characters just being able to kind of hit her before she can even get on them. Her ultimate nerf plus her 2 nerf plus her 3 plus her 1 scalings, plus cooldown increases, all this stuff kind of just makes her like a lot more obsolete. You pair that with a game where, yes, Aladdin's very strong. She's good into Aladdin, but aside from that, really bad into Agni, really bad into Ares, really bad into a couple other characters, excuse me, we're going to bring up soon. She just is fine. Again, she kind of exists as a counter pick. When she's good, she's great. When she's bad, she's useless. Just, kind of pick your spots with her. Bacchus is going to go straight into S tier. This god is completely broken. His aspect is completely ruined solo. This god is unkillable, unfightable, loses like basically 0 lanes, if any. And his support is also very strong. He's extremely safe, super good pressure, uses regrowth probably better than any other god in the game. And yeah, I mean, there's really no weakness to this god right now, and definitely needs to get hit with a couple of things. I'm actually going to put him. Should I put him above Ares? I think so. I'm going to put him above Ares because although he's a worse support, he's like significantly better in solo. So his overall like flex threat is more problematic than Ares is, I'd say, for most players and most teams. For Baron, we're gonna put him in A plus tier. Put him above Achilles. I'll put Afro also above Achilles. This character is just very good with aspect and solo, also in support. His mid lane flex is not done too much, but it's still viable. It's just the damage output is really high. Like when you have so much damage on a character as Baron, you will always run into the range issue. This guy does really bad into a couple of characters like Neath, but when it comes to like the soul lane, his pressure is very good. He's very playable. He's a great cap counter who kind of dominates the meta. So definitely a really strong, viable counter pick. That's also pretty capable of standing up on his own and just being good overall in general. With Bologna, we're gonna put her in the A plus tier, I'd say. I think she's a tad bit overrated, so that's why I'm putting her at the back end. I was thinking about putting her in A tier, but if you build like a mystical Lash build, you get some attack speed with like Berserkers, and you just kind of brawl, you'll be pretty well off. I mean, I think the big mistake people will make is they'll try to build her too damage heavy right now, which in this patch is just not all that great. You can still, get some damagey builds time to time if it's like a good matchup for you. But generally speaking, building this got a little bit more bruisery and just full committing with her all the time is the move. Her pressure is very good in the early game. That alone kind of will give her a totem-like control, which snowballs. And if you get, 6, 7, 8 of those, you're getting a pretty big team goal lead, and that's, always, I think, just like an insta win con. So, yeah, definitely super strong. Cab, we're gonna put in a plus tier ahead of all these solos, and right behind Agni. This god is very good, one of the best solos in the game, and his lockdown is super solid. I think the big, I don't want to say issue with Cab, but a bit of a weakness with him is he does do a little bit poorly into some of the top picks, so not the best into Bacchus. He's pretty bad into Sobek, which we'll see later. Obviously gets hard countered by Baron. So although he's very good, his like lack of safety can really be a big weakness. Phoenix Shield getting nerfed also hurt this god a little bit, so definitely still a solid pick, but you're not as unkillable, I guess, as he used to be. Cerberus is going to go into the A tier. I think he kind of got forgotten a little bit with this patch. I really have seen like no Cerb play, but he's definitely still a fun god. Kind of the same issue as Athena, where now there's just better guardians, and his anti-heal is a little bit more obsolete. It's still fine. I think overall he's an okay pick. You should still play him, but Yeah, not really seeing a lot of Serb, and I don't expect to see too much more. I guess, with how little I've seen him, I would say he's like quote unquote underrated, but not all too much. He's just okay. Kurnanos is kind of in the same ilk as these hunters. Yeah, I mean, dude, a lot of the hunters really kind of group together. He's higher pressure than these other hunters, but he's less safety. It's really just like a spectrum here, where Anhurs are safest with like the least pressure, Apollo's kind of in the middle, Artemis is trending towards less safe, more pressure, and Kern is like the, most pressure, least safety. Problem is Agni is more safe and gives more pressure. What's the point? You know what I mean? And that's kind of like the big issue with Kern. He's very singular in his dimension, and he's not even the best at what he does. So there's just better, easier, safer picks that give more of what he has. Alrighty, Chalk. Where are we putting Chalk? I'm gonna put him an A plus above Achilles and Bologna. I think this god is extremely overrated, so A plus in my opinion is a bit generous. I think he's the most played solo laner right now in the game by far. A lot of that is just because he's very easy, but people think these full damage shock builds are overpowered. They're not. I think his better builds right now are like semi-hybrid. You could go non-aspect to go regrowth, but even just semi-hybrid with aspect is fine. He's a fine pick. He's definitely really easy. His lanes generally tend to be good, but by no means is he like the best solo in the game. I think that's just like super uh, overblown. He's good, but definitely not like first pick, or like a ban worthy god overall. That's just like definitely a bit overboard. I just noticed. Is there not a Bari? Oh, there is a Bari. I was gonna say, like, wait, where's Bari? But it's with P. That makes sense. Okay, cool. Danza. He's terrible. Like, this god sucks. There is no reason to play Danza. I think we can just move on. Yeah, he's really bad. I don't think there's any way to make this character viable right now. Dual lane unplayable, mid lane unplayable, solo lane got worse. So yeah, good luck. Sorry. Fenrir. He got better. He's an A plus character. Yes, so Fenrir Jungle is back. You can build hybrid with, all those proc items, and he feels great. There's really, not too much else to say with this god. I think he was really good initially. Strength items got buffed. He wanted the auto attack build more, so he got worse as a result. And then these hybrid items come back and they get better, so you can build an auto attack hybrid build and be very valuable, or even a strength hybrid build and be very valuable. You just don't want to build like a full strength build, but if you get Lash, Mystical, like 1 or 2 damage items, and then like Anemian, you are unkillable. You force speeds a lot like Ares. You're obviously not as good, but it's the same idea where if your character is able to restrict people to relic choices, or force people to them, they're not getting something else they might need, like an Aegis or a Shell or a Sunder, and that's like extremely valuable always. Ganesha is going to go into. This is a tough one. I'm going to put him at the top of A plus. The reason why I wouldn't put him in S tier is his pressure in dual lane is not the strongest, but this god is, you know, functionally, like for how easy he is, excuse me, I probably should just put him in S tier. Like there's gods that are better than Ganesha in this game, not too much better, but a little bit better than Ganesha. But I think the problem with this pick, and I'm specifying non-aspect because aspect Ganesha is not that great anymore, but non-aspect is when you have a character that takes 0 skill to pilot, his floor is so high that you can look like a Masters Ganesha player while being a silver player. And that's just like not okay. There's no reason that a god this easy should ever be good, right? It's kind of like when you look at a game like League of Legends, you have like Yumis and stuff like that who are broken forever. Or you look at, just games in general that are like skill-based games, whether they're freaking tack shooters or whatever. The easiest using thing, generally speaking, tends to be kind of bad, whether it's a class or character or weapon or whatever it might be. Uh, and Smite is just straight up behind. There's no reason this god should even be decent. This should be a C tier character because if you play him quote unquote perfectly, you're doing nothing in terms of like skill, and he's still like just so strong. I just don't really see why a god that takes nothing is better than other supports and characters that if you do everything perfectly, you get outclassed by. That just doesn't make sense. It's a terrible design concept. This god sucks. I hate him. Worst add in Smite 2 by far, but we'll move on. Ganesh, or excuse me, Geb, we'll put into A tier. His pressure as well is also low. Obviously, there's a lot of anti-shielding, but I think having just such a good engaged ultimate is a little bit underrated, and his rollout, while not being the best ability, is a little bit unpredictable. The little knockup on it, I think, is also kind of nice. Geb to me was one of those gods that I probably would have put lower if not for, I don't know, just seeing him rise in ranked recently. He's looked pretty good, and being able to kind of shelter, one of your backliners is always useful, especially when mid laners are getting concentrated right now. They're getting a lot more farm than they used to, so playing a draft slash style to just protect the mid laner is actually very viable, and Geb does that very well. Guan Yu, he kind of got like slaughtered. This guy is not what he used to be at all. I'll put Guan Yu in like, I don't know, man. I mean, I'm thinking the top of B tier. I think this guy got absolutely killed. His healing got reduced, and they nerfed his one. They nerfed his passive, and then they nerfed his passive, I think, again. I think they also nerfed his aspects separately, which were, by the way, all needed. Before this patch, this god was the best god in S tier, but he's got nerfed like 55 times, and rightfully so. I mean, this is like the one character that I think had to be nerfed quick. And now that, the smoke has kind of settled, his solo lane matchups are unplayable, and they've gotten worse with this patch. So, yeah, I mean, when you ask what matchups, basically every warrior and guardian, Guan sucks into. So, like, yeah, it's just sort of tough. Odin, again, also getting better hurts this god. So there really isn't an avenue to play Guan Yu right now. He's definitely kind of in the dumps. And this is usually the Guan Yu cycle. He's completely broken, gets nerfed, unplayable, or like not great, and then stays in not great for a while, gets buffed, becomes broken, and the cycle continues. Happened in Smite 1, expect it to happen in Smite 2 yet again. Hades, C tier. This god is garbage. I'm going to actually put him probably below Danza. He can't do anything. His healing sucks in the lane. His damage is very slow because you're not getting the gold you wanted. So before, Hades' damage was always good because he got so much gold. Now you're not getting gold enough, and so you can't finish your build of Chronos Pendant, which you have to rush. So you're building a low power item first, and then you want to go Polynomicon, right? But then your poly's not hitting too hard because you don't have enough power. So then you still need to get to Hootie, but you can't go to Hootie right away because you need Shard for Pen. And so if you go to Hootie, you do no damage to the person you're laning against. And if you go Shard, uh, you'll do damage, but you're already going to be behind. And then you won't do enough damage to backliners. The problem is with Hades is he has so many items he needs, and he doesn't have the time to get all of them quickly. And then his lanes are just bad. I mean, quite frankly, he doesn't heal enough now. These bruiser picks absolutely destroy him. This god was like, completely broken, and he's very much like Ganesha, I think, where he's way too good oftentimes for how easy he is. So this god sucking, I think, is objectively a good thing for Smite, and he being in this tier is like not a bad thing. He's still going to be a noob stomper. He's still going to be valuable if you're against someone who doesn't know what they're doing, but by no means should he ever be viable outside of that sphere. I don't think ever. It's just a bad luck. Hekate. I'll put her in A tier. I'm not really sure what to think about this god. I always kind of feel like she sucks because her pressure is not good, but her utility is so strong. She has such underrated range. Her third ability is incredibly good, and her ult is also valuable. I mean, I think overall Akate is just one of those picks that you kind of don't want to be into a hunter mid because you'll get destroyed, but if you're not, if you're into another mage, you'll do pretty well. Her late game value is incredible. Just kind of need to get her there. But she's not like a pick like Hades, where she's not winning against warriors. Hekate solo is brutal. I wouldn't play it. But Hekate mid, obviously, quite strong. Your lanes are a lot freer. And the difference where, somebody might ask, why not just put Hades in mid then if he can't survive the solo lane matchups? He'll just get poked and outranged in mid. Hekate never has dealt with the range issue ever. So she's able to keep up with the longest range gods in the game by being one of them herself. And I think that really helps just keep her, somewhat keeping her, somewhat viable even when it may feel like there's sometimes better picks. Hercules, we're gonna put him in A plus tier, right above Fenrir. I think this god I'll put Fen or Chalk above Fen as well. This god is definitely really solid in jungle solo. His regrowth capability has just like super buffed this god. Also, again, the lane being more compact also helps him in solo. Brawling with this god feels good. His 2 range is definitely longer than it was in Smite 1 by a decent bit. And just having so much CC, having a better laning phase now with better items for him, really just helps the god. I mean, he's hard to lock down, hard to kill. Ares is basically always banned. That's one of his hardest counters, so you get a little bit more flexibility with this god to play him more consistently, and overall definitely benefits big time from it. Hou Yi. I'm gonna put him in A plus tier. I think this guy's actually very good. The aspect is just like an instant pressure hack, and even though you lose CC with it, with how much of a lead you'll be able to build, I think it's just always good. And if you do want to go regular base Hou Yi, your ricochets keep you from ever getting frozen on. Your support doesn't have to, high duo. You're incredibly safe. His jump seems a little wonky still. They've patched a lot of bugs with this god, but it's really hard to actually target Hou Yi right before he jumps. When he gets up in the air, it's like, I don't know, it's a little desynced, it almost looks like, but like Susanoo 3 barely catches Hou Yi. A lot of abilities thrown towards Hou Yi as he's like beginning to jump just completely clean and miss when normally they wouldn't. So I don't know if that's a bug or a feature, but he's just kind of because of that and because of naturally having an over the wall jump, incredibly safe right now. And having that amount of safety with having so much pressure, especially with aspect, is just a really powerful backliner combo. And I mean, he's going to stay a very strong character for a while, most likely. Mulan. All right, Hunbats. What do you want to do with Hunbats? So, Hunbats is a weird one. I mean, aspect or non-aspect, he's very good with either. I think he's a little bit criminally underplayed. I'm gonna put him in A plus tier above Herc. I'm super shocked this guy doesn't get played more. I don't know if people think he's hard or just bad, but he's very good. Like this god, knockup immunity means he can't get, Bakistan or Ares Dawn. He's good into Aladdin, as good as a god can be into Aladdin, I guess. And his fight's strong. If you do a 3 max, you'll be very successful. Your damage is very good. The teleport's useful. His combos feel great. He definitely got a lot of nerfs, but they haven't really affected him yet. I think really Hunbat's one of those gods that once strength items eventually do get nerfed, he'll probably get hit really hard. But until then, all of his scaling nerfs kind of got completely bounced back by strength buffs. And the difference between him and a god like a Wheelish is he has utility always. He has a range always. Maybe not the most range, but he has enough to be like somewhat useful. And he has like beads burn always to a larger group of people that he can create on his own, where Wheelix generally needs other setup. So he's very self-sufficient, and that's extremely valuable, I think, always in a jungle pick. God's really, really underplayed, though. I mean, this character is very strong. I really would recommend playing him and picking him up. When it comes to Izanami, she's bad for sure. Yeah, we'll put her in B tier behind these gods. I think the problem with Izzy is she just, for how much pressure she's supposed to give, she's so unsafe. And there's a big problem with like characters walking up in duo and just trying to hit the wave because they kind of just die. Purple buff is so powerful, so if the ADC's autoing you, you're dead. If the support's hitting you, you're also just squishy. Time to kill being lower in this game definitely hurts Izanami. She can't stand up for waves. Her hardest counter in duo lane just got added with Hou Yi. It's just not Izanami time. This god is definitely a bit rough. I don't think she uses Sunbeam as well as other hunters either. Definitely, the split push Izanami, strategy stuff is still viable, but it's worse. Definitely just not her time right now. Again, I don't think Izanami really needs to be buffed too much. I just think it's like you know, she's more of a Cowl hunter. Cowl's not that good. Kind of needs some item buffs. If Crit gets a little bit better, she tends to, I think, improve usually too. So just probably not really an Izanami buff angle, but more of a let's like give the meta some time to change. Some new characters being added, maybe will help her. Also, Yorm on the way. That makes this god worse. I mean, she's just in a bit of a rough patch right now. Jing Wei, I think, is functionally useless. I really think this god is extremely bad. You'll see her being picked a ton, even by good players, but her pressure is bad. I think crit sucks, and her passive is effectively useless with fast teleporters. You have the, value of being very safe, which is never a terrible like thing to have, obviously. But when you're picking a character that's just basically auto losing a lane for you in duo lane with pressure, I just don't really see the point of playing it. Like, why not just play a safe character who's less safe than Jing, like Hou Yi or like Agni, or even like on her. And sure, they're less safe, but they just provide so much more in the early game, so much more in the mid game. And none of those gods are locked to building crit, which crit sucks. So yeah, I don't really see the vision. I don't like Jingwei at all. I don't think she's good. Kali, still an S tier. Aspect is broken, and there's really not too much to it. When you have so much damage on an aspect, that with these ranged auto attacks, I also think, usually when you're playing into a ranged character, you can kind of tell when they're autoing. I feel like with Kali, I obviously you can see her auto attacking, but it's really like not that clear, especially when she ultimates, when she's actually like hitting you or not. I don't know. I feel like the feedback is just a little bit awkward. I mean, obviously, no shit if she's in front of you, you're getting hit, but what I mean to say is like this character is just kind of a bit messy to play against. Aspect Kali shreds people. The buff is so powerful on her ultimate. It's such a short cooldown too. And I mean, Jungle Kali is still very strong as well. Sunbeam is just overpowered. And as long as Sunbeam is good, Kali's always going to be a top pick. It doesn't matter how many nerfs she gets. Those two, things just work too well together. And then Vitalis as well is super strong on her, which isn't really a good item, but with how buffed it is on Kali Aspect, you get double the procs in half the time, or I guess the same amount of procs in half the time. And as a result, she insta-stacks Vitalis and is just super good with it. Super hard to kill. Her lanes are strong. Again, there's really like no weakness to this pick right now. And yeah, probably needs more nerfs, which is tough. I think really like when it comes to Kali, you just kind of have to hit Sunbeam finally. It's been way too long. I don't know how Sunbeam is still so good. I think it just needs a strength nerf once and for all, and I think things will kind of finally be restored. Comes to Khepri. He's really bad. I think he's just a worse scab. The problem with Khepri is, he's a defensive support, but there's executes in this game that are readily available with Sobek. Thanatos kind of sucks, which you'll see me talk about, but he got a little bit better too. Achilles, like I said, is also fine. So your main like utility and kind of trump card with the character is the X or the, revive. That's not that good in this game right now, and I don't know. I think Kepler is one of those gods that kind of was like a, soak up aggro, duo lane pressure character. His duo lane pressure is not nearly as good as it used to be. And you're going to notice, like, I have Ganesha super high, and his pressure is not great. But Kepri's CC is so much worse than Ganesha's, so is Geb's for the most part, that there really isn't like a huge reason to play the character. I kind of just look at Ganesha, Geb, and Khepri as like a trio of defensive supports, each one getting markedly worse. Like Geb is definitely worse than Ganesha, and Khepri's definitely worse than Geb. Just really not a huge reason to play this god. Aspect is cool on him, but yeah, he just doesn't really. I don't know. He just doesn't really do anything. Like the util and stuff is solid, but characters are just too squishy. He's too much of a cone in the early game. Um, and yeah, I really don't see the advantage of the character. I think like maybe a buff to help him would be number one. I think his aspect should just be absorbed into his regular kit, but I don't know if maybe making his 3 take some protections away or something would be helpful. I know his 2 has like, different util aspects, but he just really does not seem good right now. Like every time I see Khepri, this god feeds, he's rarely picked. He's just kind of like dead in the water. I don't even really know what I'd shift on him. Maybe lower his ult cooldown? I really don't know. Definitely just a bit of a rough character right now, for sure. Cuckoo. Yeah, Cuckoo's not good, sadly. I'm gonna put Cuckoo in B tier, behind Anubis. I really like the god. He's fun, but he's just not strong. His ultimate is useless. The only thing that makes this character somewhat functional is Poly. If Poly got nerfed, he would be the worst guy in the game by far. And yeah, even with Poly being broken, he still sucks. His problems are just his safety's not good, his ult is awful, and his third ability takes way too long to cast. Kind of runs into this issue where you need to be so precise and like lead characters into abilities and do all this like extra junk to make him do the same amount of damage other gods do instantly, and much easier and with more safety. Like Merlin is just a better Cuckoo in every way. And those other gods also don't have to build Book, which Book, even on Cuckoo, like obviously is fine for him, but you're so weak early, it's just like no good. I mean, this character, unfortunately, is kind of always bound to is Book of Thoth a strong item? Right now it's garbage. Because of that, he's going to suffer. Loki. He got hit a lot with the nerfs. I think he's pretty comfortably at the higher end of A tier. Before this god was very good, but his damage nerfs just hurt him outright. Tank junglers coming back into being viable also hurts him. Full strength Loki builds come late game are still an instant win con, but you have to get there, and getting there is not as consistently easy or doable as it used to be. Loki's still solid, but definitely not a insta win pick like it used to be. I think he's fine. I wouldn't rush to play him though. Medusa. Yeah, this one hurts. She's still trash, dude. I don't know. I've tried to make her work. I thought the buffs to Transcendence and stuff would really help her. They didn't. This god is useless. Like, she's just terrible. I think part of why is her. I'm gonna put her lower than this, by the way. This is too high. Also, I'm gonna put Khepri lower than these two. Yeah, that's better. We'll also put Amma higher than these, probably. This looks good. Okay, with Medusa though, her pressure's like overrated. It's not that good. Her, because here's the thing: you want to go Bluestone, but Death Soul's better right now in duo, so that's like a bit of an issue most of the time. But even if you go Bluestone, I don't think it feels that great. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, she's just bad. Like, I think it's because her passive is kind of fake. Like other hunters get good passives usually. She doesn't. Um, you also have to factor in that you have like the strength builds exist, but Transcendence sucks. Even with the buffs, it's just like not great. So you can build like a strength build without trans, and it's probably better, and definitely is better. But I don't know, like she just gets outclassed by Sunbeam Bow Hunters. She doesn't have the range that like an Uller does. And as a result, there's just functionally no purpose of playing this god. She's not safe enough. So she gives less pressure than these hunters, and she's less safe. Eventually, like, do the strength builds kind of pop off? I mean, I guess, but there's like a scaling component to this character with like getting the statues, but you won't be getting kills because you do no damage and you're not safe. All these OP junglers are now insta-killer. Jungle is the best role in the game. I don't know. I don't think these low safety characters get any value. I think she's just bad. Mercury, I think, is super overrated. If there was a B plus tier, I'd put him in it. I'll put him at the top of B tier. I don't know. Like, there's players who swear up and down that this god's great. I don't see it. I see crit being garbage. I see his 1v1 matchups in the jungle mostly not being good if the jungler has any sense of skill. And I don't know, if I'm like seeing a Mercury as a soul laner, it's just the freest like live ever. Where most junglers, it's not the case. You build Spectral, he's just not a character. Nemean's also good, not a character, into these items. And yeah, I don't know. I just don't see the value of this pick. Again, people will swear up and down that his global util value, blah 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 blah, is decent. I just don't see it. The slow immunity on this character is nice, I guess, but I would never play Merc. Again, I'm a huge Merc hater. I think that's well documented, so maybe this is a bit of bias, but I swear every time I see this excuse me, he just looks so useless. Again, he's only good in one role, and I say good with big quotations, which doesn't, negatively impact the character, but it just means you see him, you know exactly where he's going. Um, and so then he becomes like a late counter pick, and then he's just like bad. Like I don't know. I really don't see the value of this god. You need rage stacked usually to get value on him, and you can skip rage and go like a different crit like auto attack build with like hydras and stuff. But even then, it just seems weak. I really don't see the value of this character in the game right now. He'll be good eventually. It's just not the time for him. I think for him to be good, crit needs to get better. It's the same thing with Jingwei. When crit's bad, he's bad. That's just like black and white. I think as simple as you can put it. Merlin is very good. We'll put him in A plus tier. This god is just very safe and has a lot of consistent damage output. Works well with Poly, don't need it though. Works well with Soul Reaver, definitely need it. And as a result, I mean, you know, tanks are back in solo. Soul Reaver is wanted. He uses it well. His pressure is decent, if not good in most matchups. And yeah, I mean, just having that many abilities to proc things like Soul Reaver. If you want to go an aspect build with Bluestone mid or solo, it's also doable. Just lends him to be kind of the best mage in the game right now. You know, you're going to notice I have Agni above him. I have Aladdin obviously above him. I'm considering mages in mid lane here. That's like an actual mage. I think Agni's better role tends to be ADC with aspects, so that's why he's here. And then Aladdin's tends to be more of a jungle pick in the meta currently, so that's why, you know, he's there. But yeah, Merlin, just kind of like the top of the true mage mid lane kind of ilk. Mordred, he got nerfed definitely pretty hard by this patch. He's still solid, but he's not what he used to be. The Phoenix Shield nerfs hurt a ton. The ability to just kind of go Warriors X and have that be really good right now definitely hurts this guy because you want to go Bluestone. And yeah, I mean, honestly, Mordred just kind of ran into the issue of some of the new items like Regrowth don't really fit him that well. You can go it, but it's not as good. I know he's got the movement speed buff, but I guess what I'm saying is like Regrowth doesn't fit Mordred as well as it fits like Bacchus, obviously. And, you know, Ares is very good. Obviously, yes, he is typically a ban, but Ganesh is very good. Ganesh is great into Mordred. Um, Cab is also good into Mordred. The Baron matchup is doable, but it's not that easy. There's just more picks that are good into the character that are being played, paired with the fact that, you know, normally Mordred in these sort of rougher matchups really crushed on Phoenix Shield, and he can't do that as much anymore. The god is still good, but he's not the unkillable OP S tier Demon King that he's been for a couple of patches. So yeah, it's definitely, I mean, I don't want to say sad at all. He's been a crutch pick for a lot of players. Hopefully not me, right? But yeah, he's taken a bit of a step back for sure. Neath, still very good. Top of A plus. This god is borderline S tier. I think she's viable to ban if you really want to. Right now, her pressure is incredibly strong in mid, and just the ability to have consistent Neath ults without committing like a rotation in the same way you know, Athena ult would be, just gives you this ability to farm efficiently while still impacting team fights. That's a really big deal. The CC is important. The damage is really strong. The int Neath builds have so much early game, so much mid game, so much late game. Polly threads in beautifully with this god. She's just strong all points in the game and impacts team fights, farms really well. Very safe as well, extremely strong into certain picks like Baron. Definitely some of the better picks into gods like Bacchus and Aladdin. Not that any gods are great into those picks, but she does better than I think a lot of characters. So you have extreme safety, very good fight, fantastic ultimate. Just lends into a very strong character overall. Nem's weird. I think she's good though. She's underplayed just like Hunbats. I think she's A plus. This god's got insanely strong 1v1s, and the junglers are OP. Her aspect in solo is very valuable. I think this character is honestly a little bit underrated, even by me maybe, and I might put her higher in A plus eventually. But yeah, Nem just needs to see more play for me to be a bit more confident on her. But overall, like her 1v1s in jungle are insane. That's a big benefit. Aspect makes her extremely problematic in solo if she has a good matchup. And yeah, I mean, this character is just solid. I think the weakness she has is she doesn't have hard CC, but that's not like a bad thing, right? Like, I mean, it is a bad thing, but you don't need hard CC on a jungler for them to be good. If you have a comp where you have an Agni and you have a Merlin as your backline for ADC mid, It's a great M game. Like that's enough CC. As long as someone's shouldering the CC, which most of the time there's characters that do and can easily. This god is fantastic, and I really recommend picking up Nem Jungle or solo if you haven't already. Nuwa. So people swore up and down that Nuwa aspect was going to break the game. It probably got hotfix nerfed. I haven't seen it like a single time. This character sucks. Yeah, I mean, I'll put her in. I don't think she's quite C tier because I think her mid value with proc items is like not that bad. I also find her fun, which doesn't have any standing on this list, but it would hurt me to put her in C tier if she's actually like kind of playable. Nuwa, truthfully, like being objective, is not the worst god in the game. I don't think she's a C tier god, where all these other characters are just functionally unplayable for the most part, especially Mulan and Hades. Um, Nuwa at least has like a decent fight in terms of her late game is always like a ticking time bomb. She's got value with Ancient Signet, which is hilarious because nobody else uses it. Um, and the fact that you actually want to go Conduit on her means her mid pressure is actually not that bad because most mages are building Sands. So your clear ends up being pretty good. She's like sneakily decent. I'll put her like right above Cuckoo, right behind Anubis. I think this is a decent spot for her. Nuwa is not like that terrible right now. It definitely also helps that Nuwa did not want to build Divine super bad, and the sustain comps really hurt her. And with those being a lot less prominent, i.e., Guan Yu being kind of like slaughtered, she gets more valuable in kind of having more, poke-centric ultimates being available to start a fight around Fire Giant Scuffles. So she definitely is better. Not great, but definitely better. I think playing Nuwa is like objectively not a loss anymore, which is cool. I mean, it's nice to see gods get better. That's kind of what I mean. Sometimes they don't need direct buffs, just system changes, help certain picks or hurt certain picks. Odin, S tier. I think if you've seen him in jungle recently, this isn't even a shock at all. But yeah, he forces shells. That's a big deal, just like Ares forces beads. People aren't building Sunder, they tend to lose. If you have both these gods on the same team, you won instantly. And so yeah, you're forcing shells, your laning phases and solos tends to be pretty safe. But in jungle, you can put this pressure on immediately, get cage stacks. You're getting free stats extremely efficiently, quickly, easily, and yeah, you're just strong 24/7. Odin jungle is definitely his best role, and he's just a menace. I mean, this god is so powerful. The ability to have 100% anti-heal in this game when nothing else is even close to it is a very unique and kind of rare opportunity. And I think for that, Odin, really excels as well. This cage retaining its anti-heal was a huge indirect like buff to this god. Paired with these new items, I mean, everything just kind of fell in line for this god in this patch, and he's incredibly strong again. Pele, A+. She got a tiny bit worse, I think, this patch just because tank junglers got better, which means inevitably if Pele can't kill the junglers she's against in the 1v1, she gets weaker. But overall, I mean, she's still kind of the same one-shot, stat-bloated lifesteal character. You build Devas on her, or the Carver if you want, doesn't really matter. Full strength, kind of one-shot people. Pele solo with aspect is playable. It's definitely, I think, still worse than Jungle Pele, but yeah, I mean, this is a flexible pick. The damage is insanely strong. Overall, just very good, and you can still kind of play Pele whenever you want. Poseidon. Yeah, he's okay. I don't think he's terrible. He's okay though. I still think there's like a world where we're kind of sleeping on like a Nimble Ring Pos build, but I haven't seen any that look that good. I think his problem is his range is a bit weird. He doesn't do that well into the tank junglers. I think he has some really strong items right now, but I haven't seen it really come together all the way. I think his mid fight is underrated in the 1v1s though, and he's definitely stronger than these other mages, but just a little bit forgettable. It's weird because sometimes I think you have characters that, are decent that aren't played too much. Pos is one of those gods that I see played a decent bit, but it's usually by like Pos 1 tricks, and they tend to do pretty well. But overall, he's just not that popular. So it's hard to say like exactly how good he is, but I think A tier is like pretty safe. He's definitely not A+, and I think B tier is a bit too harsh. Bari. This one's probably going to be a bit surprising. I'm going to put her like right in the smack dab middle of A plus tier. I think this character really got hurt by this patch. Losing out on the super overbloated lifesteal serrated combo, absolutely brutal to this god, which is great. She was way too strong. But yeah, with Bar you'd go Devos, like sometimes Bluestone, and you would go serrated. Now that you can't do that, her like excessive insta, triple health bar healing is not what it used to be. And she's still very strong, but that was a lot of what made her good. Pair that with, Ganesha being good and existing, when he didn't before. Bacchus being really strong, that's a great pick into Bari. Odin being very strong, that's a super Bari counter. Paired with, Hou-Yi, again, another god that I think does well in Tabari. We've just seen a lot of gods that are good in Tabari get very strong, paired with, some system changes that hurt her. And she's still a very solid pick, but I don't think by any means she's a permaban anymore. You might still see her get permaban at a habit, but again, I do think this is a character that's going to slowly phase out of, being insta-banned every game, and already is beginning to. Ra. Yeah, he was actually okay. I think he's just kind of gotten hit by the tank jungle epidemic. The problem with this god is he is just so vulnerable to junglers, and junglers run the game right now by far, like and beyond every role. And the problem with Ra is he's so unsafe. You have these mid laners down here that are also very unsafe, so you'd think normally I just group him with these B tier mages. The difference with Ra is he's got really good pressure in early game, and his ultimate is so much better than these gods' ultimates consistently. So because of that, like I'll still put Rot like in a decent spot in A tier, but he really is just one of those gods that if junglers get nerfed for once ever, I don't know how these strength items are still as good as they are, but I guess he'll be so much better instantly. Like this is one of those characters that is literally just getting held back by the fact that Susanoo blows one damage at him and one shots 6 people if he wanted to. It's just gross, but whatever. Rama, he's awful. I mean, this character sucks. Like probably worse than Danza. If I talked about Izanami not being able to walk up to clear, I mean Rama can't at all. This character has zero purpose. There's no reason to ever play him. His aspect's unusable. Base Rama's I guess better, but still trash. This god is just terrible. There's literally no reason to play him. I can't even stress how bad he is with examples because I don't even know if there is one. He just does everything terrible. His ultimate's fun and it's good, I guess, but that doesn't really matter when the rest of your kit sucks. The cripple is, I think, so. I mean, it's supposed to be good, but it doesn't feel that good. I don't know. Like I was trying to think. I was trying to think of why Rama was decent in Smite 1, but is awful in this game. And I think a lot of it is just when people die quicker and things die faster in general. This idea of Rama walking up to clear the wave is just laughable. I mean, he's just gonna get killed, and he's not that safe. So you pair a character that needs to walk up to exert pressure who can't walk up while not being safe, and you're sort of like, what are we doing here? He just does nothing. And yeah, when you're a early game liability in this game right now, it's just completely over. Again, pure late game, is Rama the worst hunter in the game? No, definitely not. I mean, he's fine, but you're not going to get there, and that's the issue. If you can't get there, there's no point. So you just stay clear away from Rama. Comes to Scylla, I think she's really underrated right now. I really like Scylla. I'm a Scylla solo believer with Aspect. You guys have seen it, and I think this pick is like sneaky strong. I'll put her in A plus tier. Maybe that's a bit controversial, but I see her safety as being really strong. Yeah, her damage is a bit low, but the Aspect kind of covers that with the hybrid build in solo and support. And her mid lane, although again the pressure is a bit weak, if you go conduit you can kind of survive, and her safety is incredibly strong. I think the difference between a god like her and Jingwei, right, who's also lower pressure, a bit, weak, but safe, is that Scylla has this opportunity to build Poly. Jingwei doesn't, and Poly is such a strong item in this game always right now, that if you have a character that can use it well, you should tend to build it. And you pair it with the fact that Sylla is one of the only mages in the game that I feel like actually has an opportunity to out-secure Sunder. That's a really big deal, because like, what are your other gods that can maybe out-secure a Sunder? You have Ra, who's so unsafe that he's hard to justify picking. You have Poseidon, who, honestly, like the Kraken, I feel like it's just a shell of what it used to be, so I'm not even that sold on the Kraken being a great secure on objectives anymore. You have Kukul, which is unusable because of how slow it is, and the god's just rough to pick. So Scylla's really your only god, right? There might be one or two more that I'm missing, or maybe two common Vulcan obviously being one, but she kind of fits like a rare ilk of a couple of really helpful things. And yeah, I mean, I'm not going to put her any higher than this, but the back end of A plus tier I think is actually like sneakily a decent spot. I really think this god is extremely underrated. Sobek, S tier. Yeah, he got better this patch, like significantly, and he was already really good. Regrowth being good on him is huge. His soul lane got better because he can clear now with Lash. And yeah, I mean overall, it's Sobek meta again. That's all there is to say about it. It's been Sobek meta in Smite 2 for the entirety of the game. He got slightly worse, and with a couple system changes, couple new items, got straight back to S tier. Nothing else really to be said about it. Soul is going to go into a plus tier with like right about here. It's a little hard to evaluate this god because there's actually a bug with her that's going on right now where her 2 procs death toll. I don't know how it hasn't been fixed yet. It will be fixed. When that does get fixed, this god will probably see a decline in play. But it definitely makes her strong right now, and she's just a worse Agni objectively. But for the time being, with that buff, with that bug kind of persisting, and I mean the fact that her pressure is very good, um, she's always going to be decent. I think she's more of a noob stomper than anything, but yeah, her pressure is extremely strong. I mean, that's definitely worth noting. I don't think she's nearly as unsafe as people think she is, or slow immunity 3. Obviously, with the immunity is very good. Aspect Soul is not the best, but it's doable. So this character has some flexibility potential. Um, and even auto attack Soul solo, although like very cheesy and cringe, is actually still strong. I mean, your pressure is very doable, and you can build a really big lead. So very good snowball on a god that, where early pressure is important. She's probably being overplayed a bit because of a bug, but still definitely a strong pick, and definitely a good one. Also uses Vital Lamp very well. Uh, Susano, we'll put him in A plus tier. Some people will put him in S tier. I think that's a bit high. I'll put him behind these assassins. I think these are all like pretty interchangeable, so if you wanted to move them around a bit, I'd move Pele in front of Hunbats and Bari though. But yeah, they're pretty interchangeable. They're all just very strong. Again, Susano or junglers kind of like blend in a bit. Susano, I think, doing the same, just in the sense that they all build the same items. And obviously, these characters have very different roles in how they play. But in terms of, amassing early leads, out 1v1ing characters, getting very easy ganks, they all are very consistent in that. And yeah, they all end up being very strong. So yeah, you could make an argument with how bloated the role is. These are all S tier gods. I think that's fair, but I think a too large of an S tier is just objectively like not how a tier list is supposed to work. So they'll all be A plus. I think this is a really good grouping for these four, showing these are basically the top junglers in the game, aside from, obviously Aladdin. Thanatos. Yeah, I'm really not sure about this god. I don't think he's great. I'll put him at the top of B tier. His aspect is unusable, but people are swearing by that it's decent now with hybrid builds. I've yet to see it look good, so I'm holding back on that. I think his soul lane is completely unplayable, which isn't a big deal, but his jungle is also like not that valuable. Is there maybe a hybrid Thanatos build that like works out there that's really good? Maybe. I'm yet to see it. I think it should exist. I just don't know if it actually does. The problem is these other tank junglers just have CC and utility. Thana's execute exists and that's useful, but I don't know. Like actual CC doesn't really have a lot, doesn't have any lockdown. Just kind of a weird character right now. There really shouldn't be a reason for Thanatos to not be great. He's got flat pen in his 2, but he just kind of isn't. and I don't really even know why. I think it's just that, Thana does great or should do great in like a tanky meta where time to kill is higher in general. And even with these like tankier builds, I feel like a lot of these strength junglers just outdamage him outright. So I don't know. I don't really see the Thanatos value right now. I think he's better than Merc because from a system perspective, he fits the game better, but I don't think he's a great pick. Mori, S tier, easy. Yeah, I've talked about this a lot. Big Mori hater, obviously, but very simply put, this character, if she was allowed in tournaments, and she's not ever, literally any tournament, whether it's Smite Prime, OSL, AGL, anything, would be permabanned. This god has escaped criticism and nerfs because she is functionally unplayable in tournaments because there's a very small chance she can like literally crash a custom lobby, and because of that risk, she's just permanently banned. Because she's permanently banned, virtually nobody at the high end plays this character consistently because they don't feel a purpose to. And yeah, because of that, she doesn't get played a lot. But when she does get played, she's one of the best gods in the game. She's extremely easy. Aspect has completely ruined this god. Non-aspect, I'd probably put her in A plus tier, but her ultimate is so unbelievably strong. The aspect has baby-proof this character, and if she was being played by players because she was actually functional in tournaments and stuff, I think she probably would have been nerfed about as many times as a god like Kali or Aladdin would have by this point. She's just that strong. So if you want to cheese ranked wins, play Mori. If you want to be a normal person, probably don't. Thor. Where are we putting Thor? He got worse this patch for sure. He used to be S tier. I think this patch I put him in A plus. His jungle got better. His solo got worse. That's the simplest way to put it. So his jungle before was probably an A tier. His solo is probably an S tier. Jungle rose to A plus. Solo fell to A plus. Problem is his trades are not as great as they used to be. Phoenix Shield getting worse hurt this god, but he still is just a wall CC util jungler and solo. And in jungle, he can actually build full damage and be viable. In solo, he still builds full tank, still is viable. Just have to be careful about slightly worse laning phases now, and obviously the ability to kind of just not or like not really compete in the mid game with a lot of these like Lash mystical soul laners, because if he builds it, it's good, but it's not, I think, as potent as it is on those, like warriors. So still a very strong pick though, like by all means. I mean, this character's ceiling is insta winning games. His floor though, because of how volatile of a pick he is insta losing a game. So when you have that much risk and you have a less consistent frontline base now with Phoenix Shield getting worse, the character kind of has to drop, I think. Uller, um, I'll put him in A plus. I think you can make an argument for S tier on this god. He's definitely very solid. His poke is incredible. Because he doesn't use things like Sunbeam Bow efficiently, you have to build a full strength build, which is still very good, mind you. I mean, obviously the junglers build full strength builds and they're happy. But I think part of the weird thing with Uller is like Transcendence. So Transcendence is not a good item. He kind of has to build it. You can get away with not building Trans, but then your mana feels weird. Uh, which is just like an awkward combination to be in. So overall, I think he's basically flawless aside from that. Not having the most consistent CC can be a bit of a issue. I think with Uller, it's always kind of hard to rank him because it's like he has semi inconsistent damage in the sense of it's all skill shots and they're all like pretty precise. But do you like equate that to just like skill issue? I don't think you should entirely. I think there's some like arguments to be made that his damage is not as easy to get off as a lot of gods, so therefore he's naturally not going to be fair to consistently put in S tier. I would actually agree with that argument. Because when you look at a guy like Uller versus Neath, I mean, they're both incredibly high DPS outputs, but Neath, you'll consistently always hit your stuff. Uller, you won't. Now, if you consistently hit your stuff on Uller, he's definitely a better god than Neath, but because of the ease versus the difficulty, I think putting them in the same tier is actually like very valid. So I'll keep him in A plus. Vulcan. Vulcan will put in A tier. I think Vulcan is fine. He's definitely a solid pick, probably a little bit underplayed. You can go Aspect Vulcan and mid or solo. Aspect Solo Vulcan, I think, is just a pressure cheese play, but it is valuable. You can win a lot of games with it. When you play regular Vulcan mid, either with Aspect or not, your fights can be very strong. Thumper and stuff gives you a lot of survivability and safety, and so does the turrets, obviously, if you go Aspect, and if you don't, you just have really good pressure, honestly, if you go Thumper. And if you go for like the efficiency mod and you just kind of ability spam, you're pretty slippery. So no dash officially. I mean, you have your little backfire, but he's kind of just a hard character to lock down. I think he's very nimble, and it's a bit of an awkward playstyle to like get used to playing around Vulcan. Overall, solid pick, good pressure, safer than Ra. I think generally a decent god. Yemo is going to go in A plus tier. This character is extremely powerful in high-end Smite. I think outside of that, she tends to look kind of bad. Really, the big conditions for this character has always been, is your team listening to each other? If so, she's great. All you have to do is group up, heal, hoop out, hoop into fights, use the walls to isolate for shells, and you'll be very good. Problem with that is that requires a level of cohesion, and I think in lower ranks this character is like a C tier, and in higher ranks this character is like probably an S tier in some games, depending on who's playing it. So there is a very big distribution of how well the character will be played, obviously, but like in my experience seeing this god being played well, I think there's just so much value. The fact that she's really one of the only healers in the game that is still like actually able to heal is a big deal. And, being able to have uh, an ability to just disengage a fight, force shell is huge. A lot of characters again really want Sunder as a support, so if they feel like they need to go shell into Yamoja, that is a big, big benefit. Ymir is weird. I'm gonna put him in A plus. I see this god virtually never, and I'm very confused as to why. I think he's incredibly strong. I mean, his pressure is good, his safety is weaker than a lot of supports, but honestly, who cares? Like, you pick this character to kind of go 10 and 0 or 0 and 10, and a lot of that is positionally challenging, and he can be very feast or famine. But the value of this pick from a baseline level of having a wall, having very consistent CC, having objective threat and potential secure, as well as having really good early game pressure for dual lane, just makes this character functionally strong. Like, there's no world that Ymir is a weak god right now. I think people are just afraid of picking him because, in theory, like, I think everybody's seen the Ymir games where the god's 0 and 10 and they're like, holy crap, this god sucks. He's a little bit hard. I think he's kind of in the Emoja category of like, if you see bad Ymirs, it's very noticeable, but this character consistently can be and is very strong. So I know I'm kind of maybe cherry picking this argument because I was talking about Ullr as like, if you see the character being used consistently strong, he's very good. I guess the difference I have with a guy like Ymir and Yamoja versus Ullr is these characters are not difficult because of skill shot inconsistencies. It's more of team play and positioning, which I think is more controllable and more consistent because it relies more on you. And skill shots obviously relies on you as well, but there's more factors of like, are you being pressured at a certain point? Where are the other teammates or other enemies and stuff posturing? Where a lot of Ymir stuff, it's like, okay, obviously, yeah, don't get hit by a freeze, duh. But like, even just the fact that Ymir is able to walk up front line, keep people away from certain spots, the zoning control that he always provides is just like instantly valuable and always consistent. So there's a level of consistency I guess those picks have that a god like Ullr won't have. I mean, obviously they're guardians; they should be different. So anyways, Zeus, last god, where are we putting him? Jeez, wow, I don't know. I think Zeus is terrible. Actually, I'll put him in like B tier, I guess here. Yeah, this god sucks. He was like a super Cersei's Hexstone abuser. That shit got nuked. It got nerfed like 15 times. It felt like, not actually, it got nerfed 3 times, but that was enough. And then he was a really big Bloodbound Book abuser. That got nerfed. He was a huge Shade Scepter fan, which is still good. So I guess he still has that. But he also was better in a time where junglers were weaker. and auto attack junglers were more prevalent. So junglers were weaker, but they were just better in a different form. And I think Zeus did better into the auto attack junglers than he does the Pele's of the world. I think that's a pretty mild take, but pretty important one to remind. So these auto attack junglers, they needed a bit more cast time. They typically had to get very close and very committal to get damage off. And Zeus, kind of feasted in that type of environment. Now with, poke junglers like Loki and these tank junglers who can kind of ignore Zeus's damage, and then these strength junglers like Nem who and Susano who obviously they need to get up close, but they don't need to maintain a close distance. They can kind of, dash in to dash out, or Susano, similar idea. Zeus just kind of dies, and yeah, he definitely I think kind of got screwed by the game shifting some of his items and stuff. So yeah, that's where Zeus is. So here's the tier list, guys. I hope you found it helpful, you found it useful. I know people obviously, have differing opinions and stuff. You know, that's fine. If you have any questions, points, criticisms, or whatever else, please let me know. But I hope this was helpful. And yeah, we'll look to update this in a couple of patches. And obviously, we'll do a top solos tier list type of thing as we did before soon in the future. So I appreciate you guys, and I will catch all of you super soon. Peace.